Now on WDRB News.
Every first day of school, there'll be a few glitches, but the whole system fails.
Why is it that we as parents, get in trouble for truancy, but you guys aren't getting in trouble for being unprepared?
Still waiting on this bus.
All summer long, you had time.
I'm not convinced that we had all the voices at the table that we needed to do this effectively.
My youngest daughter, she was covered in her own urine.
That lies squarely on my shoulders and my team's shoulders.
At this time last night, the last JCPS student was just getting home. Now, none of them will go back to school until Monday at the earliest. Good evening. Thanks for being here. I'm Gilbert Coursey.
And I'm Fallon Glick. The district shut down schools for the rest of the week as it reviews last night's bus problems and hopes to fix them. Tonight, we're diving into two questions you've been asking. What happened and what's next?
WDRB's team of reporters have been investigating this issue since yesterday afternoon. Conroy DeLuce will show us the move state Republicans want to make.
And we'll hear from him in a moment. But first, some JCPS buses took students for a very long ride. WDRB's Katrina Nickel has been poring over several school routes and stops to see how far some kids and drivers had to go. Katrina?
Well, bus drivers tell us part of the problem is drivers' routes starting far away from the bus compound where they start their day. We mapped out a route for Chenoweth Elementary students. A few take this route. This specific route leaves at the Blankenbaker compound, which is just east of Anchorage. It then drives all the way out to West Louisville with its first stop in the Russell neighborhood, and then making several more stops in that area before coming back down to about the Germantown area, and then back to Chenoweth Elementary. Now, students who are in West Louisville do have the chance to go to a school closer to their home or attend a school outside of their neighborhood. And in this case, drivers say there should be a better route if students are choosing to do this.
Maybe focus on the area, the location of our compounds. I believe we may have a better success. I'm not saying it'll be 100% successful, but it'll be better than what we got going on now because you have drivers driving in the area that they're familiar with instead of being all over the county.
The JPS bus driver we spoke with asked to remain anonymous. He was asked not to do the interview, but felt like it was important to speak up. He said many factors played into yesterday being a, quote, disaster, including many morning and afternoon routes are not the same, which means drivers have more routes than last year, often in areas they've never even driven. And students are confused because their pickup and drop-off trips are completely different.
So I'm stopping 65 kids, holding up time, trying to make sure they're getting on the right bus so I can get them home safely because they aren't the kids that I picked up this morning. So even kids that I was dropping off, they was asking me, is this where you going to pick me up at tomorrow morning? I'm like, sweetheart or sir, ma'am, I'm not your morning bus driver.
The bus driver also said carpool lanes blocked bus drop-off areas at schools, and that caused them to fall behind on their route and their later routes as well. JCPS drivers did spend today practicing their routes again. However, some said they know their routes. It's actually just driving during rush hour times that have caused these further problems.
Lots and lots of problems. Hopefully it can all be solved for the sake of all these kids. Katrina, thank you. And even if your child got home on time, JCPS parents are no doubt furious, hoping yesterday's mess never happens again. As we mentioned, bus delays on the first day of school have become an annual issue, but no one could have imagined the problems this year. Some rode the bus for hours, unable to go to the bathroom or eat dinner. Some of the youngest riders not able to update their parents.
I feel like we were one of the lucky ones. I'm actually glad that my daughter never got on a bus because she has special needs. She would have soiled herself. We don't know when she would have gotten home.
One parent says school should be closed next week as well to work out logistics. He says what matters most is his children's safety.
Republican state lawmakers called the busing disaster in JCPS the final straw. WDRB's Conroy DeLuce examines their push to split up the state's largest school district, something that politicians have talked about before, but this could be I guess, what breaks the camel's back.
They have, and just this past year, they actually brought it up in a committee meeting. Now, it didn't go anywhere, but right now, all 12 Republicans that represent Jefferson County in the State House and Senate, they signed this letter, which outlines 4 changes. The biggest one, to look into splitting up the school district. Unacceptable. That's the word used by Democratic Governor Andy Beshear during a morning press conference.
The fact that it has prevented school, at least for a couple days, is a massive disruption.
Epic failure.
Every first day of school, there'll be a few glitches, but the whole system failed.
That's how the busing problem was described in a letter drafted by State Representative Kevin Bratcher and 11 Republican colleagues.
We got problems that we need to start looking at some solutions.
Bratcher plans to refile a bill that would allow students to have the right to attend neighborhood schools. He also supports school choice, an initiative Republicans have passed before that would have created education opportunity accounts to help families pay for tuition to private schools. But the Kentucky State Supreme Court ruled that unconstitutional. That's why Bratcher is proposing a constitutional amendment. Let the voters decide.
Not one size fits all like JCPS and many school districts in this state want it to be.
The letter also calls for changes to the school board and to form a commission to evaluate splitting up JCPS.
It needs to be split into at least 2, maybe 3 smaller districts.
We reached out to House and Senate Democrats for a response, but none were able to meet for an interview. State Senator David Yates, who has 2 high school students, in a statement said, quote, "I have been reaching out to local officials and my colleagues in hopes that the state may be more actively engaged in working to resolve these challenges as quickly as possible," end quote. Beshear has not responded to the proposed Republican changes, but he says parents have every right to be upset and hopes those problems are fixed.
And I trust that all of the leaders will be working as fast as they can towards making that happen.
While solutions are discussed, kids and parents wait for day 2 of school to start. Now, Republicans want to get the ball rolling now on those proposed changes. And in that letter, they asked Governor Beshear to call a special session, which it is up to the governor. And I asked Beshear's office if he would consider it. And they responded by pointing out the cost of an extraordinary special session and that one should only be taken after legislation has been agreed on.
All right, Conroy, thank you for your reporting tonight. Well, the world's largest logistics company may help Kentucky's largest school district figure out how to get their kids to and from school on time. UPS has offered its expertise in transportation and logistics, and a JCPS spokesperson told us today that the district is setting up a meeting with the company.
Throughout this newscast. Coming up tonight at 10:30, we'll show you the software and the company behind the new bus routes. A school district in Ohio used the same company and also had some problems. Then stay with us at 11. We'll hear from the bus drivers union why it says drivers were set up for failure and whether or not they think the bus problems can be fixed by Monday.
Mark Weinberg's WDRB weather forecast has the seal of approval from the American Meteorological Society.
This stormy cycle continues on and off, on and off. It looks like we're heading back into an on cycle.
I think we're going to see more as we go towards the weekend. I think we see more early next week. But, you know, we've talked about this. The Sunday night tornadoes had potential to be historic for our area. The Weather Service completed their surveys, and we now have the longest track tornado in our viewing area in August. It is not just a record breaker. The Weather Service kind of went back and looked a little bit closer into the database, and we found an I believe EF1 that was in Jefferson County, Indiana, on the ground for 4 miles. This one absolutely obliterates that record. 25.89 miles. So what started north of Hayesville went all the way into Paoli. So I want to show you also, now this means that there were 4 tornadoes that affected the Paoli area. An EF1 tornado north, the long track one, also an EF1 tornado that went just on the western side of Paoli, almost all the way to the Washington County line. That one was 8 miles and would have broke the record. And also an additional tornado now near the French Lick area. Around our area currently, we are quiet. And as we look at our readings, our skies are partly cloudy at 78. Severe weather is going to be back in play later this week. I want to talk about Saturday's opportunity for strong to severe storms in 10 minutes.
All right, Mark, we'll check back with you soon. Thanks. Well, this video released today shows LMPD officers pulling a man down to the ground by his neck. That is a violation of department policy, and according to the Department of Justice, one of many examples of excessive force, discrimination, and misconduct in LMPD. As WDRB's Darby Bain explains, it remains unclear if the officers in this video were ever held accountable.
The police chief says showing the public what happened is about transparency and accountability, especially moving forward. And anyone can view those videos online right now.
Hands up! Hands up! Hands up! What are you doing?
This video, now available online through an LMPD link, is from April 2019.
Back up! Back up!
It's one of dozens of incidents listed in the Department of Justice report looking into LMPD. Back in March, the DOJ completed its report, concluding it has probable cause to believe LMPD and Metro government, quote, engage in a pattern or practice of conduct that deprives people of their rights under the Constitution and federal law. As a result, the city and federal officials agreed to enter into a consent decree in federal court, which will require the department to make changes. As of now, Mayor Greenberg says the city has not received the Justice Department's first draft.
We are fully committed to building trust no matter how difficult.
According to the DOJ, officers responded to an elderly man dancing in the street, grabbed him, and pulled him to the ground by his neck.
Show me off that man's head. He's a human being, man.
A sergeant who reviewed this incident noted one of the officers broke a fingernail, but said nothing about the times officers violated the department's neck restraint policy. That is according to the DOJ report, which also said the officers were not held accountable. Thursday, police and Mayor Greenberg announced body camera videos are now available for the public to see, but we still don't know exactly what discipline specific officers faced, if any.
You took my wallet.
In addition, Police Chief Jacqueline Gwen-Villaroel says she has fired 7 officers, with more possible, but those names aren't being released.
Since January, I have initiated 32 separate incidents not related to the DOJ report. This demonstrates a culture of self-accountability and correction going forward.
In May, the city launched a page showing details and documents about 62 incidents of possible police misconduct from 2016 through 2021 that federal investigators reviewed as part of their report. It's there where the body camera video is now found. LMPD says of those incidents, over 30 officers were formally investigated and nearly 20 received formal discipline, ranging from written reprimands to a termination. And police say they want to hear from you.
I need the community's feedback and input on our policies and procedures.
Reporting in Louisville with photojournalist Dominic Furman, Darby Bean, WDRB News.
A catastrophic wildfire in Maui is still burning tonight.
The death toll is now more than 50 and hundreds of buildings have been wiped out. Many survivors only have the clothes on their back.
Instacart now accepting food stamps in all 50 states. The grocery stores where you can use it in Kentuckiana.
The bathroom, the final room in the house to remodel. You're almost there. You met with Windows Plus, picked your colors, the style, and accessories, and you let the Pink team handle the rest. All you have to do now is enjoy. Call or click to schedule your free in-home estimate today. Get 50% off installation, plus no payments, no interest for 12 months. Choose the Pink team at Windows Plus and get the bathroom you've been waiting for.
There's never been a better time to sell your car, and Oxmoor Toyota will pay top dollar. Eliminate the hassles of advertising and strangers at your door. We'll buy your car even if you don't buy from us. Come to the Oxmoor Toyota Buying Center or go online and get a guaranteed price for your car and shop over 600 pre-owned vehicles. We make it safe and simple at Oxmoor Toyota on Shelbyville Road and oxmoortoyota.com.
Fads come and go. And when you've been around as long as we have, you've seen plenty. We've even enjoyed a few ourselves. But being in business for over 70 years means sticking to the principles that don't change over time. Like respect, integrity, trust, and enthusiasm. But whether you shop online or in person, we guarantee to find you the right car at the right price. Fads come and go. But at Swope Nissan, great service never goes out of style.
53 people are dead in Hawaii and more could be lost. Destructive wildfires on the island of Maui have become one of the deadliest disasters in its history. Lauren Blanchard shows us the response to the devastation.
Paradise on fire as wildfires strengthened by the winds of a nearby hurricane continue to devastate Maui.
It was awful. All we could see was sort of the smoke in the horizon.
Hawaii's governor calling the blaze the deadliest natural disaster the state has seen in generations. Dozens are dead, more have been injured, and crews are still working around the clock to stop the fires from spreading. In the historic town of Lahaina, residents fled into the ocean to escape the flames.
It looked as if it's just the whole town was devastated. The whole town was decimated.
The National Weather Service says Hurricane Dora, spinning south of the island, is not only spreading the flames, but making first responders' jobs harder.
It is completely ongoing, and information is really hard to get on Maui with the communications down on the Lahaina sides.
The FEMA administrator is heading to Maui on Friday, while in Salt Lake City, Utah, President Biden said the full resources of the federal government are with the island.
Our prayers with the people of Hawaii, but not just our prayers. Every asset we have will be available to them, and they've seen their homes, their business destroyed, and some have lost loved ones, and it's not over yet.
At this point, anyone planning to visit Maui in the near future is being asked to reconsider their travel plans. In Washington, Lauren Blanchard, WDRB News.
We are still paying more to get the things we need. New data shows we're paying about 3.2% more for items than we did a year ago. Housing, among the biggest reasons for the uptick. Prices also went up on things like beef, bread, and apples. But a silver lining here, the cost of flights, used cars, and medical care all went down. Overall inflation plunged from last summer's peak of 9.1% since the Federal Reserve's interest rate hikes took effect.
You know, you don't raise rates and suddenly everything changes. It takes time.
The Fed could hike interest rates for the 12th time since March of 2022, which means interest on loans and credit cards would continue to rise.
The inflation report kept stocks in the green today. A positive start on Wall Street fell off halfway through the day, but markets were mostly positive. The Dow rose 52 points to close at 35,176. The Nasdaq gained 15 points, ending at 13,737. The Supreme Court is blocking a $6 billion opioid settlement with Purdue Pharma. The move prevents the Slacker family, who formerly controlled the company, from getting immunity. The Slackers agreed to the settlement for broad protection from opioid-related civil claims. The settlement is currently on pause until the High Court takes it up in December.
Instacart's now accepting food stamps in all 50 states. It means customers can buy groceries online with SNAP benefits. Instacart ran a pilot program in Alaska. In Kentuckiana, Aldi and Meijer stores will accept SNAP benefits through Instacart. The government says more than 42 million people are enrolled in SNAP.
A man was convicted of rape after the victim identified him by his bad breath.
He testified in his own trial, but disappeared. Now, more than 15 years later, police are still looking for him. Mark?
Unfortunately, we've got a severe weather risk for the weekend. This has been a really rough go of it this summer, and it continues. I'm analyzing the timeline and threats next.
We were here before the roads were paved. Through growth, disaster, and rebuilding. We were here for your parents, grandparents, and great-grandparents. We served them with the conveniences they needed to live and enjoy life to its fullest. We're still here for you, to provide what you need for your home and your family today and for years to come. For over 100 years, there's no hassle at Bonnie Castle.
You get regular checkups on things that are important to you. So what's more important than your home comfort? Call Bryant.com. With regular maintenance, we can help prevent untimely breakdowns or schedule your preventative maintenance just $60.
Call Bryant.com.
WDRB weather is sponsored by Windows Plus Bath Systems.
So there is a severe weather risk for Saturday. I'll tell you something. These are complicated. I think the Weather Service, Storms Prediction Center put this out at this point because it was important to really stamp that there is an opportunity here. There are definitely complexities in terms of the exact location. As it stands, Louisville is in here. There's the opportunities here are challenging because there's going to be a front dropping down in the evening, and there may be a cluster of storms on Friday night into Saturday morning. And then how these interact is very challenging. Damaging winds and hail are the primary threat. I'm still looking through the late data right now as it's slowly trickling in. I'll probably have an opportunity to view it a little bit more in the next 10 minutes, but definitely before the 11 o'clock. So I'll update you as we go throughout these newscasts. Rainfall since midnight here. Some did really well. Clarksville 0.06, not so much. Munfordville, Campbellsville, nearly an inch of rain. Great numbers. In Metro, and remember, these are not storm totals. These are since midnight. And Fairdale did not get on the board. 0.03 in Fern Creek, and 1,300 officially at the airport. So there's nothing out there now. We go to the northwest. And so you can see how it is complicated with multiple upper-level lows, severe weather ongoing near Minnesota, and then a secondary low that's behind it that will bring our strong front on Monday. And that one, for this time of the year is really a strong front. 78 degrees with a dew point of 66. Our temperature's comfortable, not overly warm right now. We only saw our numbers today getting into the mid-80s. Can we do more tomorrow? And then again on Saturday, I think we can. Around our area, look at the comfort as we're near 70. Looking at the dew points, you know what, I would call it marginally humid outside. But I'll show you some of the challenges here. So Friday, we're quiet. I've got a 10% in there. Most are going to see absolutely nothing. So you can see, we see the warmth building back in. Now, I want you to look to the north, and you see a cluster that's weakening. Some of the data absolutely blows the doors off this and moves that as a strong cluster to near the Tennessee-Kentucky line. Some does not. So this would then create a boundary. And where that boundary is where we would see these afternoon and evening thunderstorms flare. That's the real challenge here, is going to be where that cluster weakens tomorrow night and then where the front's located. I don't have a big problem with the location on that risk right now, but I can guarantee you it will need to be refined. 69 degrees of patchy fog late. Tomorrow will come in at 89. I've only got a 10% in there. Look, Saturday's not a slam dunk. It's a 40%, but Monday carries a much higher rain chance. And I think in the region there will be severe weather, and I'm going to hone in on where in 10 minutes.
All right, Mark, we'll check back with you soon. Our WDRB investigative unit has been really digging into the heart of yesterday's busing disaster in JCPS.
Day one of school and the first day of a new busing system.
Some of my drivers are telling me they have some kids crossing a 4-lane highway, which I know that's not district policy.
They got out of school at 4:20, so they said they weren't going to get here until almost after 6 o'clock.
The district in a neighboring state that also had day one issues with the bus route technology.
Discover summer in a new Ford from Oxmoor Ford.
New 2023 Expedition. Save $4,500 plus rates as low as 1.9%. Or new 2023 Escape. Buy for only $31,510 and rates as low as 0.9%. New 2023 F-150 XLT Super Crew. Rates as low as 1.9 or buy for just $59,365.
Don't miss the Discover Summer Sales event at Oxmoor Ford on Shelbyville Road and OxmoorFLM.com.
Whether you're a high school student planning your future or an adult starting a career change, you belong at Ivy Tech. We understand that school should work with your life, which is why we offer in-person, online, and hybrid programs, as well as free textbooks. Ivy Tech equips you to complete your degree and meet the needs of your community with an in-demand, high-paying career. There's no need to wait for your future. Classes start every 8 weeks, so apply online at ivytech.edu today.
A transportation disaster. JCPS students stuck on buses until 9:58 last night. Now school is canceled the rest of the week.
Some 65,000 kids ride the bus to school. And Superintendent Marty Polio today laid out what needs to be done before kids get back on the buses Monday.
So here's what we're going to do over the next 4 days, working around the clock. First and foremost, we are going to be reviewing all bus routes and all bus stops over the next 4 days for efficiency, making sure that we get all students to and from school efficiently. Second of all, we're going to be having our bus drivers have extra days. We're going to pay them extra days to practice their new routes, which is a big challenge, I understand, for them, but they need more practice with this. We're going to be improving our communication structures between families and schools and us. And finally, we are going to dramatically increase our call center, 485-RIDE, over the next 4 days so that we can answer all questions for families and do the best we can to solidify all bus stops and make sure that when we come back to school, we are efficient and safe and getting our students home safely. I appreciate your patience.
And that's the only time we've seen Polio since school got out at 3 p.m. yesterday. We have asked for interviews, but JCPS has denied them.
But the leader of the bus union is talking. He says school should be canceled next week, too, as the district fixes these issues.
As WDRB investigative reporter Valerie Chin explains, the software JCPS uses to plan the bus routes could be the issue.
Chaos and frustration on the first day of school for JCPS.
They got out of school at 4:20, and we had to go get our kids from school. So they said they weren't going to get here until almost after 6 o'clock.
WDRB heard from hundreds of parents, teachers, school administrators, and bus drivers upset about the late buses or buses not showing up. JCPS hired Alpha Route for its new bus routing system.
Some of my drivers are telling me they got some kids crossing a 4-lane highway, which I know that's not district policy. So stuff like that, that's now, the computer didn't take into consideration.
The company out of Massachusetts says it uses the next generation of routing algorithms developed by MIT Research. It uses artificial intelligence to come up with bus routes for JCPS. It's supposed to save time and money and help with the bus driver shortage.
So you can stimulate all you want to, but if you're not going to listen to drivers and take their input, it's still not going to work.
John Stovall represents the JCPS bus union and says he had concerns about the new Alpha Route system and told the district early on, but nobody listened.
I would advocate that they cancel school for next week as well. I know the district will probably get mad at me for saying that.
Using Alpha Route, JCPS says the average ride time for students is supposed to be 27 minutes. The average walk to bus stop distance, about a quarter of a mile. But as we saw, bus times were much longer than that for many. And parents said students were walking far distances to their stops. Superintendent Marty Polio is not talking about the bus issues where the media can ask questions, but instead released a video.
First and foremost, I want to take this opportunity to apologize for last night.
Thank you for joining us.
Here's what Polio had to say about Alpha Route on the first day of school before the afternoon and evening bus delays.
They're a consulting company that it's not necessarily software. It's a consulting company that has done this in several other districts. So they won our RFP when we put out a request for proposal. And obviously, we make sure that they've had a history of being successful in other places as well.
WDRB Investigates found Alpha Route was not successful for Columbus, Ohio City schools, where over 35,000 students ride the bus. District leaders there say CCS paid $1.5 million to purchase Alpha Route software to use last school year. But there were so many issues, CCS reassigned routes to students in January and instead renewed Versatrans routing software that it had used the previous school year.
Do you think Alpha Route should be used still?
No, I don't think so. I mean, it's apparent it's a disaster. Now, there may be a few things they could take from that and tweak it, but right now, no. And I'm thinking other school districts have used this same Alpha Route thing before and had the same problems.
This school year, using the new system, JCPS cut bus routes, going from 730 to 600.
Some bus drivers were telling us the issue is they're taking East End drivers, putting them in the West End to areas they're not familiar with or all around the county.
Right. And then the other problem is that, when you have drivers with now two different routes, basically.
Drivers have one route in the morning and a different route in the afternoon. This shows a route some students took, a 90-minute ride from East Louisville to St. Matthews, to Portland, to downtown Louisville, and to Old Louisville to get to their school on the first day. Stovall says route sheets used to be short, and now there's several pages filled with stops. Parents remain concerned.
So I feel like this is going to last for the whole school year due to some bus drivers wanting to quit. So I don't think this is going to be a fix.
What do you anticipate happening on Monday if school continues?
I think we'll have the very same thing again. It's too much change too soon, too fast.
With photojournalist Darius Bowie, Valerie Chen, WDRB News.
And it's important to note the JCPS Board of Education approved polio's transportation plan. Only one member voted no. That was Linda Duncan. Stick with us at 11. She'll break down why she knew the system was the wrong move.
We have been following this transportation disaster since the bell rang yesterday. We even stayed with some families as they waited for their child to get home. We'll continue to stay on top of this story as the district prepares for next week. All of our coverage is on our website, WDRB.com. And no matter where you live, sign up for SnowFox text alerts so you can learn about closures as soon as they happen.
Mark Weinberg's WDRB weather forecast has the seal of approval from the American Meteorological Society.
I almost feel like a broken record, but here we are about to talk about storms again.
So I think that Saturday, the more I look at the new data, and I promised you I'd kind of get a sense of where it stands here, I think that we're probably going to see a cluster of storms moving through western Kentucky and maybe our western counties early Saturday morning. That may clear us out for the afternoon and minimize that threat, but Monday is legitimate. Monday is a powerful cold front. Middle of next week, again, I'm not complaining, mid-80s with low humidity. I mean, 84, 85.
Nice.
But that front has to move through warm, humid air, and that may generate some strong to severe storms. Saturday carries a slight risk. So this is complicated because there's a risk that occurs on Friday night into Saturday morning. My belief is that's probably going to carve through maybe Paoli, western part of our area, E-Town, Litchfield, through around, let's say, the Hardinsburg area. And then ultimately what would have to happen is the wind shift in the afternoon generating more storms. My feeling is if the slights for that, and again, it's complicated because this goes through 7 a.m., that would need to be lifted northward. Either way, we'll watch the western part of our area early Saturday, and then the northern part of our area late Saturday. And I just think that's the best way to kind of break that one down. As we look across our area now, our skies are partly cloudy to mostly clear. 85 the high after a low 70, so the low was really close to normal. The reason we were cooler than normal is the cloud cover. Lose cloud cover, it warms tomorrow. But we still have these higher dew points. And that's one of our real stories here. It's quiet in New Albany. It is quiet in Simpsonville. It is quiet in Seymour this evening. Our temperatures are exquisite. 73 in the West End, 76 in Hurstbourne. It is amazing in E-Town at nearly 70 degrees, and Litchfield comes in at 68. Notice it's warmer towards Little Rock. Is that moving in our direction? Yes. Are the slightly higher dew points moving in our direction? Yes. But really, if you look at tomorrow, that fuel maximizes in Illinois and western Kentucky, and we know that storms will chase fuel into that area. So the complication of this upper level low with watches creates multiple disturbances, and then we'll get a storm ejecting off that low near Alaska. That's our Monday play. So Advanced Track, I've loaded a different version because I wanted you to see some other computer model. So this one shows a sprinkle late in the day, and I've got a 10% to cover that. Now I want you to see what happens Friday night into Saturday morning. So you can see a decaying cluster of thunderstorms moving across our area. This would lay down a boundary. Now, if it is as intense as what this shows, now again, I'm not saying it's severe, but if it's as intense as what it shows, it would lay down a boundary to the south. And I want to show you in the heat of the afternoon. Nothing. So really, it all depends on that cluster Friday night into Saturday morning. Now, Monday is a whole different animal. Monday, the question is the rain get here early enough that it keeps us cool? If that's the case, then the bluegrass part of Kentucky would be the preferred area for strong to severe. And you can see the Storms Prediction Center right now is banking on that. It's the right move as it stands. Almost all of these strong clusters of storms have outpaced computer models slightly. So I've got us at 69 degrees with patchy fog tonight. Tomorrow carries at 10%, and I showed you why, coming in around 90. We've talked about that early and the late chance on Saturday. Sunday carries a 20% late at 91. We've got a 60% chance of rain and thunderstorms on Monday. Eastern part of our area is the best chance of severe. And by Tuesday, we're low humidity, we have tons of sunshine, and we're 84 to 85.
It looks great.
Yeah, it looks beautiful. Thank you, Mark. Well, the 174th annual St. Joe's Picnic for the Kids is this weekend. It's tomorrow from 5 to 10 p.m. and Saturday from noon to midnight at St. Joseph Children's Home on Frankfort Avenue.
Family-friendly event raises money to support St. Joe's mission to help kids in need. Admission and parking are both free. There's also parking and shuttle service available at Southern Baptist Seminary on Lexington Road.
A man was arrested in E-Town for shooting another man in the face in Clarksville. What police say the victim threw at the suspect's truck just before the shooting.
Louisville native Chris Barkley got emotional discussing his return to coach at the University of Louisville. Tom Lane will have that next in sports.
A transportation disaster at JCPS leads to canceling school on the second day and third day of school coming up in Point of View.
The Women's World Cup starts this week. Whoa, why are we at a soccer game?
Well, it said Women's World Cup on Fox could interrupt WDRB mornings on game days.
And when that happens, our newscast on WDRB will move to our sister station, WBKI, during the games.
When the games are over, WDRB News resumes back on WDRB.
That's what I'm talking about, Savannah. Woo!
If you want to watch the Women's World Cup here on Fox, stay on WDRB.
For the past 3 years, WDRB and Kentuckiana have raised more than $2 million to help children fight cancer. The St. Jude Dream Home giveaway is where people can buy tickets for a chance to win a new home here in Kentucky.
Visit WDRB.com and click on the St. Jude Dream Home tab to enter. Each ticket you buy gives you a chance to win a new custom-built home.
St. Jude serves hundreds of families in our area who never receive a bill for treatment.
Are you and your family in the market for a new fence? Then look no further than EAC Fence. Proudly serving over 29 counties in Kentucky and southern Indiana. Call EAC Fence today or visit our website.
Leaving a familiar place can be difficult, but it's the people that make you feel at home. All you need is a warm welcome. Someone to help you discover new things.
Wine tasting experience in Louisville.
And to connect to the community.
Always exciting to watch on their home court.
Making the unknown soon feel like home. Embracing change and being connected. All starts with WDRB.
A dream come true. A dream come true. It's been awesome.
Louisville native Chris Barclay on what it means for him to be back here coaching at his hometown school, a place he would have liked to play.
Chris Barclay started Male High School in the late 90s and early 2000s and is still the all-time leading rusher at Wake Forest University. But it's the offer he didn't get out of high school that makes coaching here such an emotional experience.
I always wanted to play here, but, I never received an offer from the University of Louisville. I had one from UK, but I never got one from the University of Louisville. Now, at the time, to their credit, every running back on the roster was 220 plus. You got Mike Bush, you got Lionel Gates, you got Eric Shelton, you got Kobe Smith, and, great backs, but I also felt like I could play a little bit as well. And just the opportunity was never afforded to me. And I just think it's just surreal coming back here every day that once upon a time, my fingerprint wouldn't work to get in this building. I couldn't get access to get in here, but now I got all the access, and that's just God, just bringing her.
Good, that's nice, man. Barclay has coached with Jeff Brom for 7 seasons, and he feels like he's got a great group of running backs to work with here, led by veterans like Jawar Jordan, Maurice Turner, and transfer Isaac Arendo.
I think, the three of them, I'm lucky because they have great chemistry. They love to be around each other. They push each other, and they love each other. And when you have that type of connection, I think, it just raises the whole room. And the young guys help the young guys out as well. But I'm just ecstatic about where this unit is right now from the amount of growth.
A new book accuses golfer Phil Mickelson of placing over $1 billion in sports bets. In his upcoming book, Gambler, Secrets from a Life of Risk, professional gambler Billy Walters says Mickelson bet more than $1 billion on football, basketball, and baseball over the past 3 decades. Mickelson also allegedly attempted to place a $400,000 bet on Team USA in the 2012 Ryder Cup in which he played. Walters also says he estimates Mickelson lost about $100 million. Mickelson has not yet commented on the reports. Walters is a Kentucky native who says he sparked a friendship with Mickelson at the 2006 Pebble Beach Pro-Am. They had a falling out 8 years later. Walters did jail time for insider trading and believes that Mickelson could have saved him from jail by telling the FBI the truth that he never had any inside information on stocks. Tom Lane, WDRB Sports.
In less than a month, Kentuckians will finally be able to place their first bets. Sports betting will be legal starting September 7th at retail locations and September 28th on mobile apps. The Kentucky Horse Racing Commission received applications from 7 licensed racetracks, including Churchill Downs. 7 mobile service providers have also applied, including Caesars, DraftKings, and FanDuel. The KHRC will review and vote on applications on August 22nd.
An Indiana court upheld a law that limits who can be bailed out of jail. The Bail Project fought the new law, saying it's unconstitutional and unfairly targets charitable bail organizations. The Bail Project also argued that cash bail payments should have been protected under the First Amendment. Well, the court shot down their appeal, saying lawmakers have the ability to regulate charitable bail funds and pretrial detention.
The man accused of hoarding hazardous materials in a Highview home won't be in court until later this month. Mark Hibble was arrested after police found more than 20 dangerous chemicals in his home. The city announced it plans to burn the house down, but his attorney is trying to stop that from happening, saying it would destroy evidence that could be relevant to his case. Hibble will be back in court August 22nd. A man was found dead in a lake at Fort Knox. Military investigators found him dead at Crystal Lake. That's on US 31W north of Muldra. It's part of the Army post that's open to the public. They're trying to figure out what happened.
A man who was shot in the face threw a water bottle at a truck driven by the man police say shot him. This is all coming from Clarksville PD. Eric Tabor is accused of shooting the victim through his windshield after police say the man threw the water bottle. It happened before noon yesterday on US South 31 and Charlestown Pike. Court documents say the two spoke at a nearby hotel before the shooting. Tabor was arrested a few hours later in Elizabethtown. Police say they used surveillance images and pinged Tabor's phone. He will eventually be taken to Clarksville to face charges, including attempted murder.
A renewed search tonight for an escaped rapist. This is what Tu-En Lee looked like in 2005 when he was booked into a Massachusetts jail for rape. This is what police think he looks like now as a 54-year-old man. He fled from his trial back in 2007, was eventually convicted, but never found. Investigators say Lee blindfolded and raped a woman who was a waitress at his family-owned restaurant after breaking into her home. She identified him with the smell of his breath.
The type of violence he engaged in isn't something you see one-off of. So I'm believing there may be other victims out there, and it's imperative that we get him off the streets so we can hold him accountable for his initial crime.
There's a $10,000 reward for information leading to Lee's arrest.
The number of children exploited online spiked during the pandemic. This week, Homeland Security announced the results of a program called Operation Renewed Hope. It identified more than 300 victims of online child sexual exploitation or abuse.
Once you send that first picture, it's like ammunition that they have, and it just doesn't stop.
According to the National Center for Missing and Exploited Children, between 2020 and 2022, reports of online enticement of children for sexual acts increased nearly 113%.
The armorer for a Western film that became the site of a real crime scene where someone died pleaded not guilty. Hannah Gutierrez-Reed faces charges for involuntary manslaughter and tampering with evidence. She worked on the movie Rust when the film's cinematographer Helena Hutchins was shot and killed during rehearsal. Prosecutors accused her of being hungover when she loaded the prop gun. Charges against the film star Alec Baldwin were dismissed. He was holding the gun when it fired.
The U.S. cut a $1 billion deal to get 5 Iranian Americans from prison to house arrest in Iran.
In exchange, Iran will receive at least $6 billion frozen in South Korea. The tentative deal follows months of heightened tensions between the two countries, but this deal is expected to eventually end with their full release in the next month. Jeffersonville High School is getting a new 56-passenger coach bus. We'll tell you who's paying for it.
Mega Millions jackpot for tomorrow, $20 million. Saturday's Powerball, $194 million. We'll be right back.
Now, with Point of View, here's President and General Manager Dale Woods.
To say the first day of school for JCPS ended horribly would be a huge understatement. A transportation disaster unfolded before our eyes when the last bus riders were dropped off just before 10 p.m. Some parents couldn't find their kids, and some students were left on buses for hours. It was an absolute debacle, especially after JCPS had the entire summer to focus on their new and improved busing plan. As you can imagine, parents were furious, and I don't blame them. Fast forward to the second day of school, and things just got worse. Shortly after 5 a.m., JCPS made the decision to cancel school for the rest of the week. Superintendent Marty Polio released a video message apologizing to students, parents, bus drivers, and staff for the busing issues. He took responsibility for what happened and said he'll spend the next 4 days fixing the problem. I certainly respect Polio taking responsibility, but here's where I'm confused. JCPS had all summer to strategically plan and execute these new bus routes, and day one, it failed miserably. How will they fix it in just 4 days? It seems like a lot of adults are failing nearly 100,000 kids right now and need to do a heck of a lot better. What's your opinion? Call us or share on Facebook. I'm Dale Woods, and that's my point of view.
For the past 3 years, WDRB and Kentuckiana have raised more than $2 million to help children fight cancer. The St. Jude Dream Home giveaway is where people can buy tickets for a chance to win a new home here in Kentucky.
Visit WDRB.com and click on the St. Jude Dream Home tab to enter. Each ticket you buy gives you a chance to win a new custom-built home.
St. Jude serves hundreds of families in our area who never receive a bill for treatment.
The tour of remodeled homes is here, featuring kitchen, bathroom, whole house remodels, and more. August 12 and 13. Explore the latest trends that can turn your house into a dream home. Details, locations, and ticket information at tourofremodeledhomes.net.
Long sports or band trips will be a little bit more plush for Jeffersonville High School. The city's redevelopment commission bought the district a new 56-passenger coach. Mayor Mike Moore says he talked with the principal, the coaches, and parents who all said that it was needed.
We've done an enormous amount of road projects, infrastructure fixes. We've built some incredibly great quality of life aspects with our park system. I want to do something for the schools. So in this fourth term coming up, I want to find ways, how can Jeffersonville help the Jeffersonville schools and give something extra to the kids that are calling Jeffersonville home?
Jeffersonville High School used to have a bus called Big Red. It's been out of commission for a while, so this will replace it. At least one Indiana city scrambling to find crossing guards as the new year started. The Terre Haute Police Department's looking for crossing guards to keep kids safe. Keeping this job filled isn't always easy. A spokesperson says a few positions tend to open up every year.
It's truly the definition of part-time, 1 hour per day. And it's early in the morning and in the afternoon, so it doesn't fit everybody's needs. So it's kind of hard to keep people regularly on that sometimes.
While safety is the main concern, crossing guards are also responsible for getting to know the people they're helping and building a good relationship with the community. Hey, with JCPS out tomorrow again, the Muhammad Ali Center is offering free admission to JCPS students tomorrow. Kindergarten through 12th grade students can get into the center for free Friday only. The Ali Center is also offering one adult pass per child. All you have to do is bring a JCPS ID or show the school you attend to an Ali Center staff member. And those kids should be in school, not at a museum or anywhere else. That is our top story right now on the news at 11. How state lawmakers are getting involved after a transportation nightmare on day one.
Calls tonight from Kentucky lawmakers for major change at JCPS. We thank you for staying with us. I'm Scott Reynolds.
And I'm Fallon Glick in for Lindsay Allen. The solution to a bus driver shortage created a transportation disaster.
And so much so, JCPS decided to cancel school today and tomorrow after just 1 day back from summer break.
And we will not be in school until I know we can get kids home safely.
Superintendent Dr. Marty Polio says the district is using this time to review all bus routes and stops for efficiency. It'll pay bus drivers through this weekend so they can practice their routes. And Polio says the district will improve communication with families and increase staff to answer phone calls at its bus line, 485-RIDE.
But some Kentucky lawmakers say none of that will fix this problem. WDRB's Conroy Deluge breaks down the drastic changes they're calling for now. Conroy.
Fallon, they want the governor to call a special session so that they can implement changes within Kentucky's largest school district. The most impactful would be targeting the size of JCPS itself. The letter was signed by 12 Republican state lawmakers who represent parts of Louisville. And to cut down on the number of buses and routes, Representative Kevin Bratcher says he will refile a bill that gives students the right to attend their neighborhood schools. Republicans also demand changes to the school board and are calling for a commission to explore breaking up the entire district.
Bring some people to the table. Let's look at what's wrong with having a system so big. And let's look at the ways we can split it up. You know, a commission will be a lot of people at the table.
And we reached out to several Louisville Democrats for their reaction to the letter, but none directly responded. State Senator David Yates did send a statement saying the delays are unacceptable, but also fixable. He hopes that the state can be more actively engaged to come up with solutions without playing political games. Now, any of these changes would have to happen during a legislative session.
And you talked about a special session, so can one be called to meet sooner to kind of get the ball rolling here?
Of course, Republicans want a special session, but it's up to Governor Beshear, a Democrat, and his office says that that is an extraordinary and expensive step and should only be taken once a consensus is reached.
We'll follow it through. Thanks, Conroy. JCPS parents are enraged over these transportation issues. Hundreds and hundreds of kids waiting, to get on a bus. The parents waiting for them to get home. And young students spending hours on a bus with no bathroom.
Yeah, I know, it's hard to hear that. As WDRB's Molly Jett shows us, the experience was traumatic for some kids.
Tired, hungry, and upset.
It was gut-wrenching. It was heartbreaking.
The emotions both Kilpatrick's girls had as they ran off their bus into their dad's arms.
The school let out at 4:20, and it was 9:15. That's almost 5 hours. Still waiting on this bus. They were horrified. Whenever they got off the bus, they were screaming, they were crying, they were hungry. My youngest daughter, she was covered in her own urine.
The bus driver apologizing for the delay.
I'm sorry. I got a scoop.
Unprecedented first day back to school chaos for hundreds of JCPS families.
After lots of hugs and kisses, you can stay up late tonight, right? You can eat whatever you want for dinner. They had yogurt and string cheese.
Social media shows dozens of unsettling stories. Berkeley Collins' youngest daughter with special needs is in elementary school. She called her daughter's school to check on her afternoon bus, which was never assigned. She was even more surprised to get to school and see cars lined up around the block and cafeteria full of children waiting for rides.
So we were one of the lucky ones. I'm actually glad that my daughter never got on a bus because she has special needs. She would have soiled herself. We don't know when she would have gotten home.
Several parents say they called the school, were referred to the bus depot, and then couldn't get clear answers. The last JCPS bus rider made it home just before 10 p.m., a day many hope won't happen again.
I grew up in JCPS, and I pushed for it. I love public schools. This made me reconsider it for the first time ever.
Molly Jett, WDRB News.
The president of the bus union thinks classes should be canceled through next week as JCPS sorts out these problems.
He told WDRB's Raina Katko drivers feel like they've been set up to fail.
We know the first week is going to be hectic, but this is beyond hectic.
I feel like this is going to last for the whole school year.
The start of the JCPS school year is coming to a full stop after families finish the first day feeling frustrated and upset. Now bus drivers are echoing their concerns.
This is not going to work. So they kind of felt like they've been set up for failure.
John Stovall with the bus driver union says a driver shortage isn't what's causing the late drop-offs. Rather, it's because of abnormally long routes.
They're going from one end of the town all the way to the other end of town for one student.
The situation is kind of something that was forced upon bus drivers without them
knowing much in advance.
While she wishes to remain anonymous, this woman's parent has driven for JCPS for more than a decade. She says some bus drivers, like her mother, weren't given their routes until late July and were unable to drive a bus through the route until last week.
They had the Wednesday, Thursday, Friday to be able to run their route. And then if they wanted to come in for extra time Monday and Tuesday to run their route to make sure that they knew like where they were going, they were able to do that as well. And my family member did opt to do that.
It's too much change too soon, too fast.
The drivers will practice their routes for a few days before school starts again on Monday. But Stovall says that won't be enough.
I would advocate that they cancel school for next week as well.
Without an obvious solution, some bus drivers have called it quits.
Half dozen, maybe more. So you can stimulate all you want to, but if you're not going to listen to drivers and take their input, it's still not going to work.
Brenda Katko, WDRB News.
Stovall asks parents not to take their frustrations out on bus drivers because they have no control over the routes. And to give us a better idea of just how expansive some of these routes are, here's WDRB's Katrina Nickel. Katrina?
Well, bus drivers said part of the problem is that there are compounds all over the country. Bus routes take them to the opposite side of the city. Take this route for Rutherford Elementary, for example. The driver begins their day here at the Burke's bus compound. They then drive 11 miles up to its first stop, which is on East Indian Trail, and then continues all the way up around Old Louisville and then back down near Churchill Downs before it then makes a stop at the Nichols bus compound, where kids get on a second bus to take them to Rutherford. Now, all these new routes came from JCPS's decision to change start times and consolidate routes. And instead of 2 start times, there are now 9, ranging from 7:40 to 9:40. Those staggered starts were supposed to give drivers more time to get 65,000 students to and from school. The plan also eliminated 130 routes, going from 730 to 600. JCPS worked with consulting company Alpha Route to create new routes. The company's software was supposed to shorten bus rides, but in the end, that didn't happen. Drivers and the bus union leaders say computers did not take into consideration traffic and the location of those stops.
Yeah, and we'll see. If he said a half dozen or more, that number, if it grows, makes it only harder for JCPS if drivers do step away from the job. Thanks, Katrina.
Well, the only JCPS board member to vote against the new transportation plan is also sharing her frustrations. This afternoon, Linda Duncan says the district still hadn't communicated with the board what exactly just went wrong. She says relying on an external company like Alpha Route was the wrong move.
I just think you can't rely on that outside view of this district. It's too complex to turn that all over to an outside source and let them plot for us. I had reservations about them as well, based on the reports that I had read from some of the other districts where they had to just...
Duncan says the district should have hired more drivers to fill the original 730 bus routes. She says she is hopeful a new plan can be in place by Monday.
Yeah, we'll find out as the weekend starts to draw to a close. JCPS is using these 2 days as snow days. There is no NTI right now. But, of course, this does not mean the school year will yet be extended.
That's because the district builds a few snow days in every year, and if they go beyond that limit, the district will have to extend the school year. Our team has been on this story since yesterday. We have it all in one spot for you on the education page of WDRB.com.
Mark Weinberg's WDRB weather forecast has the seal of approval from the American Meteorological Society.
It is official now. Sunday night's tornadoes were historic in our area. The Weather Service has been out doing surveys for some time here. We finally now have some information. So what we know is after digging deeper, prior to this year, the longest August tornado path was 4 miles. The tornado that touched down in Hayesville did make it to Paoli, as we thought. Winds of 107-mile-an-hour winds. That was an EF1. That should say 200 yards wide and a path length of 25.89. That is 6 times the record. Notice around Paoli there were 4. The long tracker that came in, one that was a half-mile north, one that was a mile and a half south. This is in addition now. An EF1 tornado touched down on the western side of Paoli and went almost to the Washington County line. We also found another tornado in the French Lick area, EF1, 107-mile-an-hour winds. And we also, out of Salem, EF1 tornado with 90-mile-an-hour winds. You know, the interesting thing is that tornado I mentioned that started west of Paoli, that ended near the Washington County line, also broke the record of 4 miles for August. So in the record books now, the 2 longest track tornadoes in our area in August are from Sunday night. Around our area right now, we are pretty quiet. Our temperature currently sits at 76 degrees. We've got a southwest wind at 5 miles an hour. Any issues as we go through the overnight hours? Patchy dense fog in the southern part of our area. Outside of that, I think it's going to be quiet, and I think it's going to be comfortable. We've got a severe risk posted for Saturday and Monday, and one of these jump out to me as a greater threat, and I'm going to detail that concern based on the latest data in 10 minutes.
Fired and disciplined as LMPD's new chief takes action.
She saw hours of video evidence, and so did we. The Department of Justice says dozens of body camera videos showed excessive force and racial bias. We'll show you some of what led the chief to send some officers packing.
The tour of remodeled homes is here, featuring kitchen, bathroom, whole house remodels, and more. August 12 and 13. Explore the latest trends that can turn your house into a dream home. Details, locations, and ticket information at tourofremodeledhomes.net.
You get regular checkups on things that are important to you. So what's more important than your home comfort? Call Bryant.com. With regular maintenance, we can help prevent untimely breakdowns and keep your system running longer. Systems run more efficiently, use less energy, and can lower your energy bills. Call Bryant.com. We have a maintenance plan to fit your needs, or schedule your preventative maintenance just $60. Bryant, for all your heating and cooling needs.
Call Bryant.com.
For the first time, we are seeing dozens of police interactions flagged as misconduct by the Justice Department.
Louisville is the first city that we are aware of to take the additional step of asking for and receiving this detailed information from the DOJ.
Today, LMPD released body camera footage of more than 60 cases, highlighted in the DOJ's report. During a press conference this morning, the mayor said some officers made decisions that were unacceptable. And LMPD's chief tells us more than 30 officers have been investigated, 20 of them disciplined, 7 have been fired for other conduct investigations unrelated to this federal report. And now back to that newly released body camera footage. Those videos paint a disturbing picture of some policing in Louisville.
From excessive force to racism and civil rights violations, WDRB's Hayden Rostevsky breaks them down for us, and a warning, this story may be difficult to watch.
Get on the ground! I will kill you! Get on the ground! Get on the ground! Put the hands behind your back! What the?
It was June 2020. Officers chased a car reportedly stolen at gunpoint with 2 teenagers and a 20-year-old inside. It ended with a crash and this interaction.
I'll drag you through the dirt like an animal if you don't want to move.
Between an officer and a young black man. The Department of Justice says this is just one example of discrimination and racial bias uncovered in its 90-page report examining policing in Louisville.
Get up. Get up. Get up. If you don't want to move, I'm going to treat you like a animal.
It's one of more than 60 cases flagged by the DOJ. LMPD released the body camera footage tied to these cases Thursday. We've known general details for several months, but now dozens of videos show us what happened firsthand.
Drop it, man. Drop it.
The DOJ report also highlighted several cases of excessive force. In this example from 2019, an officer tased a man accused of stealing gas without any warning and within seconds of arriving on scene.
Sit still. Please, sir.
In this 2019 case, officers responded to a report of an elderly black man dancing in the street.
Hands up. Hands up. What are you doing?
Take him down. Take him down. An officer pressed his knee against the man's head and neck for nearly 2 minutes. The DOJ determined the man wasn't a threat, and the officers violated his constitutional rights. Witnesses consistently screamed for the officers to stop.
Get your knee off that man. Yo, back up or you're going to jail too. Because get your knee off that man. He's a human being, man.
Exactly, yeah. The report also exposed what city leaders have called infuriating examples of abuse, like this one in 2020 when an officer beat an intoxicated woman with a flashlight while he pinned her to the ground with his foot on her chest.
Bite me again!
When a supervisor arrived on scene, he didn't ask why the officer used that level of force or if the woman was resisting.
So I put my foot in her chest and held her on the ground and said, stop. Right. Well,
he just laughed.
And then I just beat the out of her. She bit your ankle. As soon as she put her mouth on me, I nailed her. All right. So, I don't know how many times I hit her. You have to count on camera, probably 4 or 5. I don't know.
Reporting with photojournalist Stuart Hammer, Hayden Rostevsky, WDRB News.
Based on the LMPD data available to us, only one of these cases was reviewed by LMPD's Professional Standards Unit. The officer involved in the interaction after the chase was suspended for 10 days.
A New Albany man is sentenced to 20 years in prison, but might only have to serve 30 days. Buddy Wright killed 2 people on I-264 in May of 2018 when he couldn't stop in time, hitting another vehicle. At the time, it was found that Wright had trace amounts of marijuana in his system. Wright pleaded guilty to 2 counts of manslaughter. He was sentenced to 10 years for each count, but the Commonwealth recommended probation as part of the plea. Wright could get out in 30 days if the judge agrees.
Bullitt County Sheriff says a well-known scam is popping up again in the area. Scammers are calling people and pretending to be a police officer, asking for money, and they're often spoofing the numbers of real police departments. But you should know, police will never call you to demand money for anything, not for a fine, bail money, or fees. Police say you should never transfer money to someone you don't know, especially over the phone. If you're contacted by someone pretending to be the police, hang up and report it to a real police department.
Louisville Collegiate School won a long battle to tear down apartments in Cherokee Triangle. The private school plans to demolish the Yorktown apartments on Grinstead Drive and use that adjacent land for a 56-space parking lot. The proposal stirred controversy because of Louisville's shortage of affordable housing units. Back in March, a review committee denied Collegiate's application to move forward with that plan, but Metro's Historic Landmarks Commission overturned that decision today.
WDRB weather is sponsored by Windows Plus Bath Systems.
We have beautiful weather ahead of us, but first, we have to get through some stormy days.
So I would add a severe weather risk for part of our area late tomorrow. I would make some changes a little bit to Saturday, and I think Monday we'll probably see some strong storms, at least in parts of our region, and then we get to enjoy the nicer as we head towards the state fair. But it's the travel, it's the way we get there, unfortunately. Let me show you the severe weather risk, and you're like, really, Mark? Again?
Stop.
So, yes, that's the right tone, Scott. Maybe even a little higher than that.
Stop.
Exactly. So the severe weather risk for tomorrow cuts off at the Indiana-Illinois border. I would actually draw that into our western counties. I would come through around Du Bois County and then go maybe as far east as, let's say, around the Elizabethtown area. On Saturday, we have a slight risk of severe weather in the core of our area. What I believe is going to happen tomorrow night would probably limit the severe weather threat on Saturday afternoon, but this is for the front. A lot of the data shows that underperforming based on what occurs tomorrow night. But what you start to hear is, well, Saturday's linked to Friday. And then Friday is linked to what's happening right now. And then Monday is going to be linked to what happens on Saturday. And this is why it's been progressively one of the more challenging forecast periods that I have ever seen in this area. Summertime, because it's weak mid-level flow, is hard if you have actual storms to get locations. But this has taken it to a whole next level. 85 degrees, the high in Louisville after a low of 70. In Louisville right now, we are sitting under a mostly clear sky. It's pretty quiet. 76 is comfortable, dew points edging upward. It is a little humid. As we go to New Albany right now, we're pretty quiet. We've got mostly clear skies as we look towards Simpsonville, and it is quiet in Seymour here this evening. 72 Fairdale, West End 72, Hurstbourne 74. We're 68 in Henryville, 66 E-Town. Some just stunning readings. To our southwest, it gets warmer in Little Rock. That is going to start moving in our direction. And we also see that comes with higher dew points. You know, the interesting thing about tomorrow is you see that fuel coming from St. Louis through our western counties. And that normally means that the cluster that generates off of the prior day cluster, which is right here in Minnesota, is going to follow that moisture axis, that fuel axis. And then this is the one that comes through Monday. It's a whole different league versus what goes on tomorrow and Saturday. That's based off a convective disturbance. What occurs on Monday is a really good low with a powerful cold front. So I'll show you tomorrow. The data has 1 or 2 showers, mainly in our northwest counties. That's not what I'm talking about for strong. But you will see Saturday morning, a cluster of some strong thunderstorms moves across our area. Most of the data shows subsevere near Louisville, but we would have to watch our western counties. Now, what that's going to do is effectively place a boundary in the southern part of Kentucky, and that takes away some of the teeth from that cold front. And you can see the data is just not generating any storms in the evening. Different animal as we go towards Monday. This one, the data suggests some strong to severe to our west. That could be rolling into the metro around daybreak. It would weaken a little bit, and then it would reflare likely in our eastern counties. As it stands right now, Storms Prediction Center has their slight risk around Louisville and points off to the east. I think it needs to be watched on this one. I do think that one's going to produce some severe weather. If it's peak heating, obviously it would be a bigger concern. 69 with patchy fog late tonight. Tomorrow afternoon, your high is going to come in at 89 degrees. I've got temperatures near normal under a 10%. We've got that chance tomorrow night into early Saturday. Saturday afternoon doesn't look great right now in terms of storm coverage. 60% chance of rain and storms on Monday. And by Wednesday, we're starting off at 64 and a brilliant high of around 85.
That is a good bet. But how much has golfer Phil Mickelson bet on sports over the years? A new book by a Kentucky native says it's an extremely high figure. Rick and Eric discuss it on tonight's Sports Page.
Whether you're a high school student planning your future or an adult starting a career change, you belong at Ivy Tech. We understand that school should work with your life, which is why we offer in-person, online, and hybrid programs, as well as free textbooks. Ivy Tech equips you to complete your degree and meet the needs of your community with an in-demand, high-paying career. There's no need to wait for your future. Classes start every 8 weeks, so apply online at ivytech.edu today.
Eric, I finally found a topic that involves more money than conference realignment. Phil Mickelson's gambling habit. Billy Walters, a Kentuckian from Munfordville, known as the guy who makes the point spreads move in Las Vegas, has a new book out about his relationship with Mickelson and gambling. Says Phil has gambled more than $1 billion in his career, lost over $100 million, and wanted to put down a $400,000 bet on the Ryder Cup. Wow.
Yeah, that's not cool. $400,000 on the Ryder Cup that you're in. But $1 billion, you put down $1 billion. I want to know how much he won. I mean, $100 million is a lot to lose. He had to win some of those bets, which would be interesting. Billy Walters is a well-known and notorious figure around here, Munfordville, Kentucky. Shout out. I think that's your first one on the sports page. Listen, you got to be careful who you tick off. There's some bad blood between these two anyway, so that will be what Mickelson says in this. He's just trying to get me back for some other things, whatever. I don't really doubt a lot of what Walters has to say here. He would know where the bodies are buried, or in this case, where the dollars were lost.
You're right, and Mickelson has already admitted in the past he did have an issue with gambling that he needed to work on. This book will be $35. It'll be out August 22nd. I'm buying it. You can read it. I'm going to go on Amazon and click on it after I get out of here. Remember this, Walters, as I said earlier, a big, big figure in Vegas. He spent some time in federal prison because of some insider trading issues that he says Phil could have gotten him out of. Phil didn't. Why that happened, Billy Walters said he had a daughter who committed suicide, and that really bothered him that he wasn't there to help her. This book has the chance to be the most explosive book on the sports landscape this summer and fall. We'll read it. We'll report back on it here at WDRB and WDRB.com.
Wow.
You might read that book, too.
Yeah, I did a story on Billy Walters out in Vegas before he got in trouble with the feds. But if I'm making a bet, I'm betting on Mark's forecast to be accurate.
Well, it is an interesting forecast. I'll tell you, we'll watch for some strong thunderstorms tomorrow night into early Saturday. And on Sunday, I've got about 91 degrees. If you're like, you know what, let's cool this down, I think you're going to love. Look at the morning lows on Tuesday and Wednesday in the mid-60s.
Looks good. Thank you, Mark.
I like those odds.
So as someone that's loved meteorology my whole life, it's basically I've always been interested in the kind of look-up part of Earth and what surrounds it. And so I made a career out of meteorology, and then I was always curious what lies beyond our atmosphere. And that was kind of where I thought that I would try to get a telescope. I find weather in particular so incredibly fascinating. And I love that every night that I can kind of share a little bit about what I love.
Just over a year ago, my family was in a very serious wreck.
The other driver wasn't paying attention and hit us so hard that the impact flipped our SUV and we landed upside down in a ditch. What went through my mind in the seconds that followed will never go away. Thanks to the compassionate lawyers in our firm, my family began to heal physically and emotionally over the following months. If this happens to you, you'll need our kind of law firm.
When quality matters, Winton and Heastan.
Real lawyers, no gimmicks.